Breaking Pack Watch news. I wish I was able to cover this yesterday, but I guess we've got more news out about it now that's been a day, so it's better to cover it now than right as it's happening, because we've actually got things to talk about. Iran's president died in a fucking helicopter crash. I heard about the helicopter crash when it was announced, like when the news came out about it, and the news was the president of Iran might be dead. I remember thinking, nah, nothing ever happens. He'll be alive. He'll have survived. But then I thought, man, helicopter is what I said. Helicopter crashes are deadly. Like, really deadly. Like, you don't survive helicopter crashes. That is how bad they are. So, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, man, he might actually be dead. And by the end of the day yesterday, it was solidly confirmed. The president of Iran is dead. Very good timing, too, when you consider that Iran was preparing for war with Israel, which would effectively be war with America. So, this is literally the most convenient, assuming the state news media is accurate. Like, both Iran, Israel, and the U.S. say it was a weather event, and that like, Israel and the U.S. had nothing to do with it. So, like, it doesn't seem likely that Iran would lie with Israel and the U.S. about them having nothing to do with their president's death. But the fact that they were preparing for war, kind of good. This is kind of good. Chances is the work of a time traveler. That would be crazy. Like, if there was we gotta go back in time and stop World War III, this would be it. Like, they went and crashed the helicopter with the president of Iran before the Great War began. Yeah, that'd be wild. Catastrophe has been averted. This guy's nickname was literally the Butcher of Tehran, right? Like, this guy was responsible for numerous human atrocities. So, absolutely, like, deserved this. Death by falling is, in my opinion, one of the most horrific ways to die as well. So, helicopter crash is a hilarious guy for this dude to go. Like, spinning out as he falls and then getting turned into, like, a nice, fine red jelly up against the windows and hull of the helicopter once it hits the ground. You know the dude got, like, fucking splattered in there along with everybody else. Like, probably didn't look too different from the Ocean Gate wreck by the time that thing went down. Woo!
Breaking news.
Hello and welcome to our viewers here in the United States and all around the world. I'm Paula Newton and we are following breaking news out of Iran, where state media has now confirmed the death of President Ibrahim Raisi and the country's foreign minister after a deadly helicopter crash. Now, rescue crews are now at a staging area. Those are live pictures where they are trying to assess where exactly the wreckage is. And
why do rich and important people ride in helicopters? Helicopters are really fast to board, take off, travel, and land and deboard. And you can do it in areas that you can't a plane, like a field, or the top of a building, or like a street, or a parking lot. And they're also pretty cool to ride in. So, very dangerous, yes, but also when they're working as normally, they're kind of the optimal way to travel by air.
To begin their recovery efforts. Iranian officials say that.
Plus, rich people think they're so lucky and wealthy and powerful and, like, untouchable. I'm sure they think that, like, helicopter crashes and dying are what happened to other people, not me, a billionaire head of state.
The helicopter ran into trouble amid heavy fog on Sunday afternoon. Images of the crash site in Iran's East Azerbaijan province show the remote mountainous area where the aircraft went down. And you are looking at a photo of it right there.
I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside.
The president and other officials had been attending a ceremony for the opening of a new dam near the border with Azerbaijan. Rescuers faced difficult weather conditions overnight, including cold and heavy fog.
There were candidates to replace the dead president of Iran, so they will not fight Israel now. That doesn't surprise me, especially when you consider that lefty Twitter has been actually mourning this guy. Like Hassan's community, like the entire Hassan orbiter community, basically, and like that tanky-ish part of lefty Twitter has been mourning this substantially because this was one of the most, like, like this figure was one of the few people on the planet who actually had the power and will, it seemed, to truly challenge the United States. And all these people are LARPers who act like they want to see the U.S. fall and support like any adversarial force to the U.S. Russia, Iran, China, we go down the list. The Houthis, Hamas.
As they scrambled to locate the crash site, Iranians were urged to pray for the president amid news of the crash, with the country's supreme leader vowing that there will...
Imagine being a lefty and mourning the death of the Butcher of Tehran. Yeah, like a guy who has the like an official title that includes the Butcher.
There will be no disruption in Iran's work. CNN's Paula Hancock is following all of these developments and joins us now live from Abu Dhabi. We should say state media has officially declared that their president has died, and we have not heard again from the supreme leader. But just if you can bring us right up to date on what happened and any reaction that you have coming in.
Well, Paula, we now do know that 9 people on board that helicopter lost their lives in the eastern Azerbaijan.
Oh, yeah, one of them was the foreign minister of Iran as well, if I recall correctly. So 2 big heads of state, the president and the foreign minister, correct me if I'm wrong, got turned into a nice cranberry sauce in that helicopter.
Province, we know that the president was on board, the foreign minister. We understand a governor of that province, also an imam of Friday prayers of that province, along with security, the pilots, the crew. So 9 people in all went down with that helicopter.
Man, it just broke into pieces. That was a flimsy piece of shit helicopter. It's not even like just broken down laying there like a proper military like armored helicopter. That is like a news helicopter that just like breaks apart when it crashes because it's made of like fiberglass and wood. Like, what the fuck? They were using this is like an old 1980s news helicopter. What the fuck?
Now, you have mentioned the dire weather conditions. It took rescue teams around 16 hours to be able to locate.
Wait, why? Because, like, Iran is literally, like, a properly first world country. Like, I don't know if you've seen Iran's capital, but when you look at photos of it, it looks like Denver. It's a city with skyscrapers all lit up at night with mountains snow-capped in the background, right? Like, those are the images you see of Iran's capital. So it's like, this is a country that, at least at first glance, this is like a nation with like money, power, and like quality of life, right? Something not all that common in like that entire stretch of the world due to a lot of things having to do with the British and the US going back decades now. But like, dude, why couldn't they afford like a good helicopter for the president? Could they not afford like an Air Force One style helicopter for their president during wartime? Xander Hall, it's all info structure from the days of the Shah. I guess that makes sense. There was a big revolution. Like, wasn't there like was it the Islamic Revolution that happened? And like the revolution, like what I remember was, correct me if I'm wrong, there was for a very long time a strong U.S. like stronghold over Iran, like down to the point where we had like actual villas and vacation resorts in Iran, and it was like pushed as this desert, mid-century resort vacation destination where you would be defended by U.S. military at your like beautiful mid-century looking ass middle of the desert resort. And it was like meant to be like obviously U.S. control. The law was enforced that I believe it was like heavily anti-Muslim, which meant like say you wanted to wear a veil or a hijab or whatever. I forget what the term is for it. You're not allowed to in like the 1970s, back when the U.S. was in control. And then along comes the Islamic Revolution, the popular pro-Muslim politics take over, America's pushed out, they put into power new leaders, and then from there, things go fully in the opposite direction, where people who had become very used to like the secular nature of, like the hardcore secular nature of Iran before, were now forced to live as like to live under like I think just outright Sharia law. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that I think that's the correct term for it, right? Like enforced rule of like the Muslim rule structure. And so things went from being like it was hyper liberal and hyper progressive, I guess you could call it. And then there was the Islamic Revolution, and things went really overcorrected in the far direction, where instead of having religious freedom, it went into anti-religious freedom, but for the religion that the people who wanted religion, it was the whole thing. And then now it's a whole situation where most Iranians want to be like, they want like religious freedom, they want like democracy. They're generally quite favorable to America even, but the leadership of Iran, as far as I can tell, very much not of the same mindset. That's my understanding of Iran's current political situation. Did I get that mostly right? It's the most atheist country in the Middle East. It wasn't anti-Muslim. It was just mostly chill, secular Muslims. Basically, the far religious right teamed up with a bunch of communists, and now everyone lives under Sharia law. They hang people from cranes, gouge people's eyes out, and cut off people's hands. But it was the most atheist country in the Middle East. Well, my understanding was the revolution wasn't just like far right and like anarchists just being like retards. My understanding was there was a valid political push because the secularism of Iran was enforced. And there were Muslims in Iran who were actively like not given religious freedoms. And that was what led to the popularity of the Islamic Revolution. But then that, like, you know, revolutions happen, the people who take power. No, living under Sharia law has made everybody atheist. That I'm talking about. That's now, yeah, like obviously because now it's Sharia law. I'm talking about before then, when the U.S. was in control and it was enforced secularism. Yeah, but I'm okay. Okay, I'm gonna breathe and we're gonna move on from this because you guys are mishearing me.
Kate, and get to that area itself. The rescue teams were unable to put a helicopter into the air, they said, because of the weather conditions. The fact that the fog was so thick, visibility was very limited.
They flew their president through bad weather conditions in a fucking helicopter. They were asking for it, dude.
We also heard from the rescue teams that there were sub-zero temperatures, that it was extremely cold in these areas. You can see from the image.
That hurts helicopters, right? Because don't they have to take advantage of, like, the way that hot air rises or something? I don't know. I'm sure there's a certain level of cold where helicopters don't work. I've heard about that.
It's a very mountainous area, inhospitable terrain, and sparsely populated. So that's the latest information we have. We do know also from state media that the government has convened an urgent meeting. They say that, according to a photo that was provided by state media, that the chair that President Raisi would usually sit in had a black sash across it for mourning. We understand from state media as well that there will be details in the hours.
Listen, guys, I guess God just decided he's not ready to wipe the server just yet.
To come about the mourning procession, the process, the timing, the details. All those will come to us shortly through state media. But people in Iran will be waking up this Monday morning to this shocking news that both the president and also the top diplomat have lost their lives in this helicopter crash. Of course, questions will be asked internally now about what happened, about whether why this helicopter was in the air with such dire weather.
I always wondered, why couldn't we just, like, imagine this, right? You know that one guy for, like, Red Bull who like jumped out from space down to Earth? Couldn't we send guys up like that to basically be like hell divers? And they would be soldiers. They would jump like from one of those, and they would have like they would drop down like a payload of like an RPG with rockets that's set to like parachute deploy at a set time. Then they jump, fall down to orbit from like space down to a nation where we have like a not a great situation, like, you know, an adversarial nation, full on hell dive down onto the planet's surface, parachute down to the middle of the countryside with your RPG. And then all you have to do from there is get to a set position where like satellites have determined the country's leader travels via helicopter. And if it's like one of those like heat-seeking RPGs that I know exist, I mean, there you go, right? Just go ahead and like airdrop one guy with an RPG into the countryside. They could have done it here and just knocked the guy's helicopter out of the sky. Couldn't they do that? Like, could the U.S. not pull that? That sounds cheap. That sounds like a cheap operation. I feel like for $1 million, we could throw that together. Guy in a balloon, one of those hot, like, balloon things, and an RPG and some rockets and 2 parachutes. That's an easy operation, bro. I think it's hard in real life not burning up in re-entry. I think that's the one issue. No. Guys, what you're not understanding is that it's been done. You haven't seen what I'm referencing. Red Bull World Record. Here it is. This is literally low Earth orbit, okay? Like, this is on the edge of the atmosphere, pretty much. Like, I'm pretty sure you could theoretically float above a country. He wasn't in space. This is so high up, I feel that jets can't go this high, like fighter jets. But how cool would it be just, like, deploy downwards? Watch, this shit literally makes I get so fucking nervous and sweaty watching this video, but it's a good example of what I'm talking about.
Guy would jump from space.
You just gotta send one guy and an
I wanted to
RPG
be the first human
down to the
outside
surface of
an
a
aircraft
country.
breaking the sound barrier.
Over 100,000 feet up. There is still a
Almost
balloon
weigh
holding him up.
twice the weight that I normally have, and it's very difficult to do a perfect exit. Do not over-rotate, because if I start over-rotating, there's no air that you can use to slow down.
Okay, Joe, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go, Felix.
I'm going over.
This is real life hell diving. Da 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 da. Da da. Fortnite. Could we not just
25
drop guys
seconds,
out of these?
It looked like everything's under control.
The issue is this is really hard to pull off and not die. You'll see why.
And after 34 seconds, I hit Mach 1, and I broke the speed of sound.
Was that him breaking the... Yeah.
That's the rawest shit ever. Hearing a fucking sonic boom, and it's like, oh, my buddy falling from the sky just broke the sound barrier. That's some actual, like, Superman, like, invincible shit.
And after 34 seconds, I hit Mach 1, and I broke the speed of sound.
Was that him breaking the... Yeah.
That was our goal. I wanted to be the first human outside of an aircraft breaking the sound barrier. Because of the fact that a lot of those scientists said prior to the jump, you're gonna spin like crazy, and the other half said, we don't think anything is gonna happen. I was mentally prepared to spin, but I was hoping that I'm not gonna spin. Now, if you watch the next couple of seconds, you see at that moment, it slowly starts to spin. It's getting faster.
And he's spinning while falling at the
problem is
speed of
there's no
sound.
protocol. There's nobody in the world telling you, listen, Felix, if this happens, you have to do this
That's
while
so
the
scary,
whole world
dude.
is watching. Then I was trying to move my arms around a little bit, just maybe it does something. And
The
then
atmosphere's
it stopped
so
for
thin.
a second, but now it starts getting the opposite direction, you know, and then it really ramps up. At that moment, it's not about breaking records anymore. At that moment, it's all about survival.
Speed 600 miles per hour.
There's only
Yeah,
one
the only
way.
giveaway that these guys are coming is the sound of them breaking the sound barrier. You would hear just like boom, 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 boom. And that's the sound of 4 fucking Americans somewhere hell diving down into your country. That goes so fucking hard. Dude, I should be president. This is what I'm doing with Space Force when I become president, okay? One day, Zan for president will happen. Yeah, he's moving at 600 miles per hour. The human body apparently can move at that speed and not just disintegrate, supposedly. So that goes hard.
For the blood to leave your skull, and that's for all the eyeballs. If that happens, you're gonna die. I had a Chi Whiz attached to my hand. The Chi Whiz is a device that
God, the
it
POV
fires
shot makes
a
me-
drogue chute that pulls you out of that flat spin. That's why I put
Oh, I
my
hate this
hands
video,
in.
but I love it, you
The
know?
trick that
It's
that,
so stressful.
G whiz, it's less G, and now the G whiz senses, oh, less G, that means he's getting it under control. I turned around and I was stable as a rock.
Showing Felix in a stable descent.
So when you look at my suit, you know, the more you fall, the more depressurized the suit gets, and here you can already see the suit flapping.
Now he's like at normal
Look
skydiving
at the
height. He's
sky.
like, oh, this is what I'm used
Blue
to.
now. Yeah, so we went from black sky back to blue sky. If you look at the right corner, Luke was dropping some flares, and it gives me the perfect direction for the wind. Now this is a very important moment.
Oh yes, this is
Very
the hardest
first time
part,
after
the
hours
landing.
and hours inside that spacesuit that I'm breathing regular air. So now
Yeah.
I'm really happy because even the landing.
Why is this not Space Force? What, like, this should be Space Force. They're literally fucking weather balloons. It's such cheap technology to get a dude up into low Earth orbit to just jump, like orbit the Earth for a little while in the balloon, like until he's above position, and then have him jump. Imagine fucking up the landing and dying after all that. I guess you could, yeah. But this guy's done this a trillion times. This is the easiest part for
Worked
him.
just perfect.
This is the part he's done before a bunch, you know? Just the landing with a parachute. Yeah, it's like after a massive scary race being worried about pulling into your driveway on the way home. You know, it's like, no, that's not the scary part of today's, like, thing. You know what I mean? That was a massive stun lock, but I'm telling you, elect me president and we'll have actual helldivers.
Conditions. We know it was in a convoy. There were 3 helicopters in all carrying the delegation of President Raisi from this inauguration of the dam project just on the border with Azerbaijan. There were 3 helicopters. 2 of them landed safely, but the one
Because then your assassin is stuck in another country? Like I said, helldiver.
carrying the president and the foreign minister, we know now, did not. Paula.
Paula Hancock's for us in Abu Dhabi, continuing to track reaction. Really appreciate it. I want to bring in CNN's chief international anchor now, Christian Amanpour. Christian, really good to have your insights here. You interviewed the foreign minister a little bit over a year ago. You tried to interview the president. I just want to get your reaction to what really has been shocking news.
Well, Paula, it is obviously shocking news, and it couldn't come.
I'd say the president of Iran killed himself to try to escape an interview with me. He knew that my questions would be so hardball that he figured dying in a fiery helicopter wreck would be a better fate.
At a more
That'd be what I'd
unstable
say.
time for Iran and for the region. Iran faces, as you know, those internal protests and discontent that have been crushed brutally in the aftermath of Mahsa Amini's death, and that was under the direction of President Raisi and the Supreme Leader and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. It also comes at a time when this Israel war on Gaza against Hamas continues, and as you know, the perennial shadow war between Israel and Iran that had been going on broke into the open over the last several weeks. That somewhat subsided after a reaction from both.
Iran's a backer of Hamas, so I wonder how Hamas is probably feeling right now, knowing that, like, Iran's current, like, taking the like helm leadership does not plan war with Israel. Will they continue to support Hamas? That's the real question. What if they don't? What if Hamas is back, like, on its own, relatively? Like, Iran would be Hamas's most powerful ally. So, like, I mean, yeah, the Houthis and Hezbollah are, like, nothing to scoff at, for sure, but they're no Iran. They're no Iran. Iran was the superpower backing Hamas.
Sides, but nonetheless, it shows the peril of the situation. You can imagine for the United States, for the West, one of the most important issues is the Iran nuclear issue.
I was just about to say, how's this going to affect, like, the Iran nuclear deal? Trump backed out of that. Was Biden not pushing for another nuclear deal? Is that now off the table? Like, what's going to happen now? That's literally exactly what I was about to say. I was just about to say, what about the Iran nuclear deal?
Somewhat contained after the 2015 nuclear agreement that President Obama negotiated with Iran and with Europe and was rubber stamped into officialdom by the entire United Nations process.
And then Trump pulled us out.
President Trump, at the urging also of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, pulled the United States out of that, and that caused much more uncertainty and stability over the process of the Iran nuclear program. We understand over the last week or so there was some word from the IAEA, the UN nuclear agency, that they were back in talks with Iran to make sure that everything was happening above board and within the nuclear regulations, the Non-Proliferation Treaty. We wait to see what kind of work they were doing on that. And it's known that the United States is trying to stabilize issues with Iran, given the volatility of the region right now. As for inside Iran, as you mentioned, the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei issued many statements before the news that he had actually been found dead, saying that the nation was praying, and you're bound to see days, if not weeks, of official mourning organized all over the country. He also said that...
No, okay, there's going to be, but at the same time, do the people of Iran approve of the president of Iran? My understanding is that, like, Iranian favorability for the USA is surprisingly high. Like, at least it surprised me how high it was. Is there really going to be this overwhelming, like, mourning for this guy? Like, his own people gave him the nickname, the Butcher of Tehran. Like, they lit off fireworks and the news broke in Iran. So is it going to be, like, celebration of his death that is going to be framed by news media as, like, celebration of his life and mourning? That would be funny if, like, the media has to, like, paint the celebration of his death as a good thing to keep the regime looking like it's not coping, I guess. Like, we're faking it till we make it, our oligarchical regime. Genuine mourning? No. State-forced mourning, a la the same as North Korea? It's not off the table? Yeah, no. Like, that's what I was going to say. North Korea. Are we going to see something like this? Staged North Korea send-off Kim Jong-un. Look at all these people that have so obviously... Look at, like, all these people who have so obviously been ordered to do the exact same thing when Kim Jong-un shows up.
For North Korean television viewers, there was little doubt of these soldiers' excitement for their mission and enthusiasm for their leader Kim Jong-un. The newsreader says, "We admire the great leader who shows so much love to us and the officers and soldiers who are stationed at our border." It's the sort of propaganda video that North Korean viewers are familiar with, but for the rest of the world, it's a surreal scene.
One woman's carrying her baby in the water.
Here's how it unfolded on North Korean television as monitored in Beijing. The North Korean leader arrives at a Yellow Sea Island garrison within clear sight of South Korea. A newsreader says the great leader is unshaken by the strength of the enemy and is not at all nervous to appear so close to the border.
Dude, we need a fucking U.S. Marine sniper, like, constantly watching the other side of that river. What the fuck? Like, dude. Like, what? Like, why do we not constantly have, like, snipers along that river just checking to see if he shows up? Like, what if he does for an event like this? That's the moment to take, like, your 1 in a million, 1,000 yard or, like, 2,000 yard sniper shot. Like, that's the time. That's when you try to do it. Like, that's when some, like, South Korean sniper makes history.
Soldiers and their families, the anchor says, are overjoyed to see Kim. They renew their vows to fight against their sworn enemy, the United States, even if it comes to hand-to-hand combat. As it shows Kim Jong-un inspecting the island's defenses, the report says the timing of this inspection is crucial, suggesting an imminent attack. That's a message North Koreans are...
You know, the interview wasn't too far off in regards to depicting how the president of Iran died. It did involve a helicopter crash.
Frequently bombarded
no tank,
with.
though.
Yet, however improbable an outside attack, North Korea is certainly facing a sea change in relations with its sponsor state China after Beijing went along with tough new UN sanctions. Kim's tour took him to the Yellow Sea islands of Jangjae and Mu. The islands are close to the South Korean island of Yeonpyeong, which North Korea shelled 3 years ago.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if it's going to be this kind of thing where it's like obvious propaganda shit, where like the state is forcing people to pretend have a mourning session where they're all crying in the streets. Like anybody has ever done that for their nation's leader ever, you know? Like, do you guys really think that even like more ardent Biden supporters would be crying in the streets if Joe Biden died tomorrow? Like, that doesn't happen. Like, people don't cry on their knees like that for the arrival of their like president unless they are literally like Trump tier like sycophants. But even then, like, the only reason that people worship Trump like that is because they are allowed to not, and they choose to worship Trump like that. If Trump was in power and gave them no choice, many more of them, I imagine, would not be on board. Yeah.
The affairs of the country will not be disrupted or disturbed. To that point, there is a act of succession. There is a line of succession. There's a first vice president, and you're bound to see at least interim measures being put in place to ensure the continuous running of the system. At one point, before the Mahsa Amini death and before the protests and the riots back in 2022, Raisi, a very hardline fundamentalist, was being considered a successor to the supreme leader Ali Khamenei, who himself is elderly. News of his ill health and sort of frailty have appeared to be vastly overstated over the years. However, he is aging, and there needs to be a succession there in place if that system is to.
Nah, I'm sorry. Nah, this guy's gonna live a million years. Have you ever seen a guy who's more obviously going to live forever? No, like, actually, look at this guy. He is never dying. This guy is going to be like a wretched raisin under that beard and those glasses, and he will still be alive. This guy will live for, like, centuries. He already looks really old, but also doesn't look that old. Do you know what I mean? This guy is going to live for centuries. I just get that vibe right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he died in a few years. If he doesn't get killed, he will live for centuries. Just based on, like, the look he has. I don't know. He looks like a surprisingly healthy old man. He's sick? Dude, he looks healthy. I don't know. He looks healthy for being 85. Like, his face is full. His skin complexion looks good. Maybe his eyes look a little fucked up. But, like, I don't know. Maybe I just don't know enough. I don't know. I think Khamenei could live for a long time. Of course, he looks healthy on state. Yeah, to be fair, this could be like a heavily touched up photo of him where in real life he looks like Slavoj Žižek. You know, just very, bro, please have an apple. You know what I mean?
Continue. Raisi was then considered to have somewhat disqualified himself or besmirched and sullied his reputation, given the political and popular uprisings against him inside Iran, as well as the economy being really bad for the people. He is not considered to have brought prosperity at all to the Iranian nation. And if you look online on social media, you can see the reaction from many, many people, both outside and inside Iran. His most recent legacy will have been the brutal crackdown on the freedom life protesters, the women life freedom protesters. And from his very early
there's not going to be any genuine mourning of this piece of shit
days, he was very senior, if not head of the judiciary process, and he had been accused, or not accused, he had been overseeing some of the trials in the very early days of the revolution, and in one point signing off on one that led to the execution of thousands of anti-regime officials or activists. So his career has been incredibly checkered, but nonetheless...
People don't forget when their leader has murdered countless of their own people. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I've planned to cover it for a while, but I've also wanted to visit this country for a while. And if I speak negatively of the government, I probably can never visit unless like a revolution happens, and that's the Philippines. The family that has nepotistically held power in the Philippines for like decades on decades now, father and son have a hit, like literally Wikipedia pages that are like sections in their Wikipedia pages that are just titled massacres. Like the last two presidents of the Philippines, go to their Wikipedia page, there is a section, yet the Marcos family, there's a section simply called massacres. The Filipinos people are not like, they don't like the leadership of their country. You know, it's not that like, and not only that, but there have been countless journalists in the Philippines who have been killed by gangs that are employed by the government to silence those that are dissident. It's never like a government assassin or some like military guy that takes you out. It's a gang member paid by the government to kill you and make it look like it was a robbery or like a stick up or just normal crime. Duterte was almost as bad. Yeah, Duterte has his own whole Wikipedia page of atrocities as well. The Philippines has been under the yoke of like actual madmen for like half a century or more now. I'm planning on covering it for a while, but if I do, I'm losing my Philippines privileges. I'm never allowed to return. It's like Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction.
It's a big change and a shock in a very volatile region and a very volatile place. And as for Hossein Amir Abdullahian, yes, I interviewed him, and he is somebody who's had a huge amount of interaction with the UN, with international governments, and he's known very well around the world. Paula?
Christian, do you think that will be a bit of a loss? I was discussing earlier just that he was a man who certainly was nuanced in his foreign policy, perhaps did the work that President Raisi didn't want to do or wasn't capable of doing. Do you think that at this pivotal time in the region and beyond, that is quite a loss for Iran as well?
You know, Paula, the truth of the matter is that Iran is run by the supreme leader and more by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Those are the people who run the country. The rest are acting at their service and their behest. They are not independent. You can have nuance, you can have style differences that can either be more abrasive or less, but the actual running of the country is from a much higher level. So I think certainly in international affairs and in national security affairs. So I believe that is likely not to change.
And breaking news.
Oh, sorry. So I don't know. This could very well be the event that just kind of like we look back at it and we're like, man, did a time traveler just change history there? Because things could have gone very differently. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. This is actually very good news, no matter how you, shake it, even if nothing really changes in the grand scheme of things. Just a massive W. The butcher, it has been butchered. The butcher has been blown the fuck up, if you will. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, this news coverage, please consider leaving a like and commenting down below as such. I really do appreciate it. Both acts boost my channel in the algorithm, no matter when or where you're watching. So I really, really appreciate when you guys do that. It essentially forces YouTube to push my content out in the algorithm and helps a whole bunch. Now, if you haven't already, you should consider subscribing and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications, so YouTube tells you when I go live or upload a new video. And of course, if you haven't already, consider following my social medias, which are all linked down below in the description. And don't forget, if you want to support me financially to help keep a roof above my head and food in my belly, consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch to the Streamlabs link down below. And of course, if you want to, maybe just kind of join my fan community and be in the hub of it all, you can join my fan Discord, the link down below. It's totally free. We host watch parties, game events, and call-in streams there, and I announce all my uploads and streams as well. So if you have notifications on, you'll actually see whenever I do anything new on the channel. So I hope to see you there, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a good one.